No matter what you go through, be you.
I'm nervous as hell, but I'm gonna do this anyway. How does a black man wearing a mask who has spent most of his life stuttering, mumbling, suffering from high levels of social anxiety end up on a TEDx stage, talking to hundreds of people, maybe thousands via the internet? I believe me being here is a direct result of purpose, finding it, accepting it. And it all started when I had the audacity to, this is gonna sound crazy, but be me. Let me explain. My dad told me years ago, if you want to know more about people, know more about yourself. We're all more alike than we are different. But I thought I was very different. It often felt like the world would never stop reminding me of how different I was. And you know, as a kid, fitting in is everything. I was born to a Guyanese-born, British-raised mother and a Memphis-raised father. My parents got divorced, and by the time I was in preschool, my father had custody of my brother and I here in Memphis. First grade, I remember my first grade teacher constantly reminded me of how different I was. Every time there was something to send home to your parents, she'd say, "Now take this home to your mom." And it doesn't take you long to look around and notice you're the only kid in the room who isn't taking this home to your mom. At least that's how I felt when no one else has an issue with what she's saying. To be fair, I don't think she meant anything by it. She was just used to more common or traditional circumstances for young kids, like being raised by a mother. But when you miss your mom, things like that sting and left me feeling alienated. Different. And different made me quiet and afraid and uncertain, vulnerable, to the point where I never corrected my teacher, never asked her to stop saying that. I just dealt with it. Fast forward a few years, at age 8, my whole world had changed. Full transparency, my father had become addicted to drugs, admitted himself to a rehabilitation facility, and after living with our grandmother for a brief period of time, we moved from our house into an apartment building, and this apartment building changed my life. I was afraid of my new home. In and around this place, I regularly saw violence, drugs, guns. Every Friday evening, my dad would attend these meetings. Rooms filled with people who introduced themselves with their first name only, and when they stood up, no matter how long they'd been sober or clean, they'd follow their names with, "And I'm an addict." See, I was 9, 10, all the way up to 15 and 16 years old, attending those meetings with my dad. And I don't think the adults knew how much I paid attention. But a lot of those times I was overhearing adults speak to each other, exposing some of their most vulnerable moments to each other for the sake of, well, maybe their stories would help each other not feel so alone, not feel so alienated. So these people were uncovering the darkest moments of their lives to help heal themselves and aid the healing and progression of others. They told their stories when they didn't have to. They could have sat quietly or not even shown up. I spent a decade watching my dad work his ass off to eventually lift us out of poverty, and he became the greatest role model a young black man can have, because I got to see a man fall and rise and lift his family, believing in himself and believing in God. I wouldn't change a thing. I eventually moved to New York to pursue my dream of becoming a professional music producer. And like my dad, I worked my ass off. I wasn't so good at the networking and building relationship stuff, but I'd outworked the best of them with ease. I was still quiet, still felt alienated. One evening, I was in a recording session with the legendary rapper Busta Rhymes, and he said to me, if you want to make it in this industry, you got to first figure out who you are, what you are, and then break the knob turning that up. Go past 10. I was still in college at that time, so after the session, I went back to my dorm and looked into the mirror for a while. Who am I? What am I? And how do I break this knob, turning that up? And why is that so important? It gave me anxiety just thinking about it. Years later, I was back in Memphis. I was a different person when I came back. I'd had success as an entrepreneur, producer, and engineer, and I was back in the place where my memories were often tied to frustration and feeling misunderstood. I was with a group of people having drinks, and we were having a discussion. I can't remember what we were talking about, but I do remember I had a perspective that I thought for sure would deem me odd, unusual, etc. I just moved back, so I was really hoping to make some friends. And so I initially shied away from even responding. Well, eventually I consumed enough liquid courage to where I had to share my thoughts. What did I have to lose, right? I spoke up, and initially there was silence. Seconds later, two people stood up and said, finally, that's exactly what I've been thinking this whole time. And they were excited that someone spoke out and provided this perspective. And I would have never known someone else even felt like this. They wouldn't have known either. Multiple people would have had the same thoughts and ideas and same feelings sitting right next to each other. And if one person didn't speak up, we would have left that gathering feeling alone in our thoughts. Driving home that day, some things came to mind. The importance of speaking your truth, the importance and potency of being sincerely yourself, things that I had pondered before. But something new came to me that night. It was a new way of looking at it. We've all heard that we should be ourselves for ourselves, as a part of valuing ourselves and being confident. That night I said to myself, but I think I also need to be myself for someone else, anyone else, who needs to know they are not alone. I don't know about you all, but it's a lot easier for me to dedicate myself to an idea when the focal point of it isn't me. For example, someone says, hey James, get some rest, you'll need it. I may or may not go to sleep. But if someone says, hey James, get some rest, your son needs the best version of his father in the morning, I'm definitely gonna get some sleep. Framing it as for someone else gives me purpose, and I can't let that person down. Secrets don't start movements, uncovering them does. Someone is waiting on you to be you, extremely you, awkwardly you, effortlessly you, vulnerably you, unapologetically you. Someone will draw strength and confidence from you being you out loud. Someone will learn to disagree and not assume everyone thinks the same by you being you. Not an easier to digest, understand, and safer version of you either. The real you. And as a music producer and entrepreneur, I use this every day. I often have clients who are nervous or intimidated about the creative process. All it takes is someone in the room to be okay with being awkward or not perfect and show the not so pretty parts of making a song, to tear down those walls of anxiety and set up an artist to get the most out of his or herself, to be okay with being vulnerable. And in vulnerability, we find us. We find how we connect as people. We find out that we are more alike than we are different. We find community. And we get to the root of issues faster with an understanding rooted in empathy. The next time you can speak up and you don't, consider this. Maybe your story isn't even for you anymore. Maybe it was given to you to share to others who need the strength, support, and clarity you've gained. Maybe it's for someone else, and you're denying that person of what they need to grow and become. You're allowing them to feel alone. Someone is waiting on you to be proud of yourself. Someone is waiting on you to not simplify yourself for the sake of easygoing conversation and be comfortable in being a complex person, like we all are. Someone is waiting on you to be unapologetically black in a room full of white people and be completely okay with not pulling out the "Hello, my name is James" white voice to appear less intimidating. Someone is waiting on you to be unapologetically fill in whatever your sexual preference is. So how did this kid who stuttered, mumbled, had extreme levels of social awkwardness and anxiety for most of his life end up on a stage in front of hundreds of people, maybe thousands via the internet? Well, purpose. Knowing my story, the dark parts, the successes, the vulnerable parts, can help someone else. Gives me the strength I need to drive past my own fears. Someone out there has been waiting on me to be me, and I won't deny them. You shouldn't either, even if you're nervous as hell. Thank you.